Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. I'm Manufred, he's Stefan Bejankowski, and today's big topic is, of course, the La Liga market value update that is now up on Transfermarkt. You can read that on all domains, but specifically Barcelona, Stefan. And Barcelona is one of those sides, of course, La Liga champions, right? But still, there's been a significant amount of movement both up and down for Barca.
Yeah, so, depending on who you ask, Barcelona maybe had a good season, maybe had a bad season.
Mhm.
Obviously, they won the La Liga title, but they obviously came up short in the Champions League. So I guess it comes into perspective, priorities, or I guess what each fan kind of prioritizes in terms of what's the most important competition. And, the market value changes the transfer market have made to a number of players in that squad, I think do a good job of reflecting that. So 10 market value changes in total. Six
Mm.
downgrades. We saw Sergio Roberto go down by 1 million, Eric Garcia go down by 2 million, Marcus Alonso go down by 2 million, Frank Kessie go down by 3 million, Ter Stegen go down by 5 million, and the biggest one was Robert Lewandowski, who went down by 10 million. And the interesting thing about Lewandowski is that he didn't have a bad season by any means. He obviously played a significant role in the club kind of winning the league title, but he is obviously getting on in age in a certain extent. He's obviously 34, he'll be 35 by the end of the year, and it's just standard policy transfer market. When players begin to get beyond 30 and start getting to kind of twilight years, then obviously their market value is just naturally going to fall. So it's not really a reflection on him personally or in terms of performance. It's just a kind of age thing. And then of course there were four market value upgrades. So, Andreas Christensen saw a 10 million euro upgrade, Rafinha saw a 10 million euro upgrade, Frankie de Jong saw a 15 million euro upgrade, and then Alejandro Balde saw a 20 million upgrade. And, we'll get into in a minute, but I think it does a really good job of kind of probably showing where this Barcelona squad is right now and perhaps where certain players might be moving on and certain players might be, becoming more important members of Xavi's squad.
I think this is a very important point that you made there just now, and I want to reiterate that, right? Market value doesn't necessarily mean a player is good or bad. It's just is a reflection of what the market would pay for him. And yes, when players get older, the market value decreases. It's just how it is. And I do think you're right. I mean, this update does show is a really good indication of where Barcelona are as a side, right? They will be a side in a bit of a transition. Obviously, the European campaign was a disappointment, and you look at this team, and we do all know the limitations that Barcelona have in the transfer window right now because of the financial issues the club has. But like Stefan, when you look at the squad now, and you look at where the market values are going, and you look at the strengths and weaknesses, what do you think Barcelona have to do this summer?
Well, I think, obviously Xavi's first season at the club was one in which he basically just had to get over the line with whatever tools he had at his disposal. That's why we saw someone like, Robert Lewandowski come in as a ready-made star. And he's done a great job of kind of, helping the team over the line. We also saw that with kind of more senior players like Busquets, with Jordi Alba. And I think the really interesting thing is on top of the Lewandowski market value drop, we're also seeing Busquets retire. We're seeing Jordi Alba retire. We're seeing Lionel Messi decide that he's not moving back to Barcelona, which is something that was
Yeah.
widely speculated. So you have a whole raft of kind of senior players there who are either moving on, choosing not to come to the club in the first place, or kind of the senior market value and perhaps their influence begins to diminish. And if you kind of compare that to the players who've had, their market values increase, the likes of Frankie de Jong, who not so long ago was being heavily linked with a move away from the club, but has
Mhm.
now kind of probably stabilized himself and hung on long enough so that he can kind of step in as the kind of long-term successor to Sergio Busquets. Alejandro Balde, 19-year-old fullback who's done a great job this season, is kind of, and then he's obviously going to step into Jordi Alba's shoes to a large extent as well. So when you then add that to the kind of most valuable players at the club, which, right now are Pedri at 100 million euros, Gavi at 90 million euros, and then of course you've got Frankie de Jong as well underneath that. I think it does a really good job of saying, at least for Xavi, and I think this is probably what he has in mind, is that we had these kind of very old, experienced players who helped us go over the line in my first season, but now it's a job of transitioning and trying to build a long-term squad around a lot of kind of young, very talented players that Barcelona do have at their disposal. So, going forward, I think it's going to be a squad that's largely built around the likes of Pedri, Gavi, Frankie de Jong, and Alejandro Balde. Maybe some others added to that along the way, but it's a good core, and it's one that might help Barcelona next season.
And maybe the final question here is, you already said it. Lionel Messi, of course, going to Inter Miami rather than Barcelona. Barcelona were upset about it, to say the least. I mean, it's seldom that you release a press statement about a player not joining your club. But this might sound controversial, but this could be a blessing in disguise for Barca, Messi not coming back.
Oh yeah, you took the words right from under my mouth. I mean, I'm sure we'll have Barcelona fans in the comment section of this video saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We're Barcelona. He's Lionel Messi. We go together like peanut butter and jelly or something. And I get that. He's obviously Barcelona through and through. And maybe at some stage in the future, when he's kind of done with what he's doing in Miami, he might return to the club in some fashion. But you're absolutely right. In the here and now, Barcelona now have a huge pay packet, which they were probably putting aside for Messi, and they can now apply it to different positions in the squad, which I think they definitely have to do. Not to mention the fact that they will probably still have to move on some players. Like Rafinha, for example, is a player who, although he got a market value upgrade in this market value update, and he's probably still a very good player. There's been a lot of talk of him returning to the Premier League, for example. There's still a lot of kind of speculation over Ousmane Dembele. Ansu Fati is a player who's kind of really began to kind of struggle. Ferran Torres, Frankie Kessie. There's a whole raft of kind of substitutes, shall we say, in this Barcelona squad that could easily be moved on this summer, and then they'll probably need to bring in replacements. So it gives Barcelona far more breathing room. And like I said, the key thing is that they still have that kind of spine of exciting young players to kind of cling on to and build a squad around, and hopefully do. And then hopefully that can allow Xavi to win more trophies.
Absolutely. Barcelona are going to be fascinating to watch throughout the summer in this transfer window. I think it's going to be a club that is, despite winning La Liga, a little bit in transition, players coming and going. You can, of course, stay on top of that by visiting transfermarkt.com.co.uk or .us. We will have all the big transfer stories covered. We will have lots of player profiles as well and some in-depth pieces. So please check that out. And you can also discuss all of this in the rumor mill. We'll be back soon. Until then, cheers and bye-bye.